What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward presented by Raymond. Empower your purpose with Raymond. You guys, we've got a very exciting show today, so I'm going to get into it in just a minute. But before I do, I want to remind you to like, subscribe, and turn on your live notifications so you don't miss a single second of the Word on Woodward, which airs every Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 2 on Red Wings and Tigers social media channels. You guys, like I said, we've got a very busy show. Dan Dickerson is going to join us. We've got interviews with Detroit News sports writer Chris McCoskey, Hockey Night in Canada Punjabis Hannah Ryan Singh, and former Tiger Kirk Gibson is going to join Art later in the show for the headliner. Speaking of Art, let's bring him in and get right into our big three for today because we've got some baseball to talk about. And the first thing on the big three presented by our friends at Chevy. Art, the Tigers have signed Spencer Torkelson. We have been waiting for this. We knew it was coming. And hey, they signed him to a record-breaking deal. So Spencer Torkelson is officially a Tiger.
Well, obviously, it's good news. I think we knew that it was going to get done. I mean, the day they drafted him and we talked to him in the press conference, he always, just we all assumed he was going to be a Detroit Tiger. Maybe they wanted to slot the other five guys before they get them signed, before they got torqued, to know exactly how much he was slotted for. There was a little bit of wiggle room, if I understand the way the contract procedure goes. But sort of with that said, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, he is labeled maybe the best college hitter to come out in the last decade or so. And the Tigers are going to try him at third. Then, maybe he ends up at first. And I know we're going to talk to Chris McCoskey and Kirk Gibson about that. I'm excited. I'm psyched. I'm ready to see baseball. I'm ready to see the Detroit Tigers. I really think that at this point, although we've, the Tigers, all of us have suffered through some, rather trying seasons here lately. I think they're on the way up. I really like this, group of young players, young prospects that they have. Some of them I think are going to hit really well. Torkelson being one, of course. I'm a big Riley Green fan, and then that starting pitching, those young arms. So things are looking up, and we're going to get it started very, very soon. And the Torque Man, welcome to Detroit officially, my friend.
Well, Art, you led us into topic two of the big three pretty smoothly there. We've got the Tigers arriving in Detroit for spring training. Spencer Torkelson will be a part of that 60-man roster, and we are so excited. There he is arriving. You've got Spencer Torkelson, and I'm sorry, I forgot that one is CJ Cron.
Sorry, it looks like a young.
Sorry about that.
He looks like a young Todd Bertuzzi.
I know. That was CJ Cron. I'm looking at it like, I don't recognize him, but the math throws me off a little bit. But the guys all arriving to Detroit. It's an exciting week for everybody. They're getting ready to take the field. And Art, like you said, we're all really excited to see them back on the field in a Tigers uniform, and hopefully all goes well and we see some baseball really soon.
For a second there, I thought that was Andy Dirks walking across the street.
I know,
Andy making a comeback. You know what? First and foremost, I'm glad they're wearing masks. But it is kind of difficult to tell who's who, because let's face it, they're all young men for the most part, and they're all in shape, so they all kind of resemble each other. So with a mask on, I'm saying. So you don't see those like beautiful features that that the audience is seeing, for me especially, and also you, Daniela.
Yeah, we're going to have to. The Tigers social media had a video out there, and all of the guys had their names on there, so you can tell exactly who was arriving. We saw Riley Green, Cameron Maben, Spencer Torkelson, Dylan Dingler, all arriving in Detroit, and you'll know who they are on the video on social media.
They are Tigers. Those were legitimate Detroit Tigers walking into Comerica. We know that. Yeah, we promise. that looks like Todd Bertuzzi. I swear, he looks like Todd Bertuzzi.
Oh, maybe that's funny,
Rodriguez. For all we know, these are vintage Tigers coming back.
Oh, man. Are we sure? They are Tigers?
No, I mean, who knows? Maybe they're in there for an orientation of, the new safety rules. Who knows who those people are? But but we think they're Tigers. No, legitimately, we're having a little fun with this. They're definitely Detroit Tigers. We just can't, with the masks on, which we want them to do. We just can't tell who's who.
I think we're going to need a name and number on all of the masks now. Instead of the back of the uniform, we can do it on the mask.
I think that's what the Tigers are going to end up doing. They're probably going to end up having masks with their numbers on, or Tiger masks, with the orange and black and all that Tiger stripes, and then with their number in the middle. Then we'll know. I think that I never realized. You know what though? We just learned something here. I never realized how difficult it is to recognize somebody when they have a mask on. And because these are very recognizable fellas. I mean, they're baseball players. We know them. And, God is our witness. We had trouble figuring out who was who, but that's all right. Yeah. They're wearing masks. They're doing the proper thing, and they're gonna play. So good. That's good. That's just good. I mean, what the heck? What the heck?
Well, my credibility might have went down just a little bit since I could not tell that was CJ Cron. But hey, you know what? The mask.
Okay, see, I thought it was Todd Bertuzzi 10 years ago. I'm going to say this. All the fans out there, if you can tell who those guys were, write them down, send them to us, and maybe you'll win a prize. Definitely not, but I'm just going to say as an inducement, maybe you will. It's a big maybe, but because we really did not know. And so if you think you know, let us know, and at the end of the show, we'll reveal the proper order of the guys that we just saw.
Yeah, we'll have Dan Dickerson do that for us when he joins us for the mailbag. Dan Dickerson will be able to tell. Just by their eyes.
That's right. That's Double D's. That's Double D's first question from Art from Livonia. Who are these guys?
Oh, look, there's Dan. Hey, Dan.
There he is.
I can tell that was Dan.
I didn't know it was me.
I knew from your okay. I knew that was Double D just from his Andy Warhol lithograph background there. I've never seen a guy that has, yeah, really. Fall, winter, summer, and spring all in one back there. It's a very, very interesting.
All right, guys, we're going to bring Dan Dickerson back in just a few minutes. Let's get into our last topic of the big three for today. Learn, Play, Score, one of the Red Wings initiatives, was named a Project Play champion by the Aspen Institute. Now, you guys, what this means is that they were just recognized for being a great program. Aspen's Project Play Champion program recognized 18 local and national organizations who are taking new, meaningful, and specific actions consistent with Project Play framework, which includes 8 promising strategies that the stakeholders can use to help every child become physically active through sports, which I don't think there is a better program that can fit what I just described than Learn, Play, Score. It's doing great things for the youth of Detroit.
Well, yeah, certainly. This is going to be the catalyst or the forerunner or for the rest of the NHL. I mean, this was a program. Unfortunately, the Red Wings introduced it. Kim Davis was here, our friend of the show, as I like to say. NHLPA sent a rep. I mean, everyone was behind it. Obviously, Chris Illich was there. Kevin Brown, whom we've had on the show before, director of the Red Wing Foundation, and it's a great program. It's really bringing hockey to those and teaching the game that I think we all love and that we all know. I think it's a great thing, and as I said, this is going to be the forerunner for the for all NHL teams. I think they're all going to look at this as a really big moment in the history of hockey and providing assistance to community and teaching this game and making sure, as hockey likes to say, hockey is for everyone. Well, Learn, Play, Score. That's going to be a big thing. It's great. It's great to be associated with something like that. They're doing it the right way. These are people that really, really care. And, helping young people is, it doesn't get much better than that. And so, what a great thing. Congratulations to them. And, I'm looking for more Tigers and masks. in the show. We should just have these guys kind of coming through. But that was
We
great,
should
Danielle.
really name that tiger.
Yeah, really. Really name that masked tiger. But getting back obviously to learn, play, score. I know I'm all over the road here today, but with that said, it's a great it's a great program. It's a great program. It's $1 million initiative by the Red Wings. And it was slowed down by COVID-19, like we've all been slowed down by it. We've had to alter our lives, but it's good to see that they're grabbing the old bull by the horns, and they're still being effective and doing good things in the community during again these uncertain times.
A big thank you to the Red Wings and everybody involved in Learn, Play, Score. Also, a big thank you to our friends at Chevy for presenting the Big Three. Chevy cares. This is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. All right, guys, as promised, we're going to get right into the mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars. And today's guest is Dan Dickerson. I hope he took the mask off because I'm not going to know for sure if it's Dan or not if he still has it on. So take it off. Okay, it's Dan, everybody. We're going to need your help,
you could get
Dan.
an all-star team getting off a bus. If you had an all-star team getting off a bus of the most recognizable players and they all had masks on, I guarantee you people would struggle to figure out who the heck is who.
Even sometimes seeing them in clothes throws people off because you're not used to it. Right. And then with a mask on top of it.
Right.
You know what was great about that last segment? This is what makes being live so worth it. Because no problem. Pre-show meeting. Yeah, we got it down. We're gonna know who these guys are. Don't worry about it. We got this. We've got this. And then we see them, and it's like, who the heck is that? But again, kudos to the Tigers for wearing masks. I mean, that's what they should be doing. Right. So I'm into it. But my God, I mean, did you, Double D? Honestly, did you know who those guys were? I mean, you see these fellas every single day.
No.
Okay, that makes me feel better. That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah. That made my day, Double D.
Like I said, if you guys are wondering who exactly did it, the version on social media, all the Tigers social media, it has some name tags on there so you can see. Like I said, I think it was Riley Green, Cameron Maben was there, CJ Cron, Nico Goodrum. So you'll know when you watch the social media version.
or Todd Bertuzzi 10 years ago and Andy Dirks. We really, I don't know. I'm still clueless.
Never know.
All right, you guys, let's get to our fan questions now. Dan, this first one is for you. Devin from Farmington Hills asked, which Tiger rookie do you expect to make the biggest impact this year?
That is such a good question, and it depends obviously on so many variables, but let's assume we get through this 60-game season. I still think my number one choice, and this is probably my number one choice at the beginning of the year if it had been a regular season, is I'm going to stick with Casey Mize. It may be the obvious pick, but I really do think that this guy is so close to being a major leaguer. I don't think he'll start with the Tigers at the beginning of the season, but I'd be surprised if he wasn't called up. I mean, he's just that close. It's dominating stuff. He works so hard on improving each one of his pitches. His splitter's devastating. I think Casey Mize could easily have the biggest impact. The one that I may be looking forward to seeing, because he's the hitter closest to the major leagues, will an Isaac Paredes get a chance to be at least a guy who gets some at-bats and show that he can be a bat in this lineup for years to come? Because I think the consensus is right now, assuming that, Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green aren't going to debut this year, that's the guy who's closest to the major leagues who can make an impact.
And guys, if you're interested in some of these Tigers and up-and-coming prospects, there's a great YouTube series on the Tigers YouTube channel called The Road to Detroit. It follows them through their minor league experience and talks about the road to getting to the major league. So that's really cool. And Dan, I'm going to let this joke die out, I promise. But were any of those guys in that video that we saw of them arriving? Because I couldn't tell.
I just caught the last part of it. I have to be honest with you. So.
Okay, all right.
This could actually be an old Seinfeld routine called the mask. You know what I mean? Jerry, I'm telling you, they were Yankees. They were Yankees. Yeah, I don't think so, George. I think you're dreaming. You know, I mean, classic moment in WOW TV, which I called, you know, the Word on Woodward. That was by far one of the best things we've ever done. Who's that Tiger? I don't know.
All right, you guys. Well, Dan mentioned Casey Mize as one of the most exciting rookies for the Tigers. Art, your question number 2, Kyle from Grand Rapids asks, you've given out some unique nicknames. Do you have any nicknames for Casey Mize?
Well, I talked to Casey Mize yesterday in an interview that we're going to air next Tuesday, I believe. And I think it was a very special moment between two men who bonded and we're lifelong friends now. And with that being said, I've been thinking of a couple. One, obviously, because he's going to be stingy on the mound and not give up any runs. You can call him just the miser man. He's a miser. You know, he doesn't give it away. You know, he's very controlled and he knows what he's doing. But the one that I like more than anything, I'm going to call him Arthur. And the reason I'm calling him Arthur, it's not self-serving because that's my name, is because Casey Mize is going to be the king of the hill, much like King Arthur. King of the hill, Arthur. That's what from this moment on, I'm going to refer to Casey Mize as Arthur. He knows why, I know why, but we're like this. We're like this. As a matter of fact, you'll see, well, maybe you'll see in the interview, I'm not sure, but I've promised that when he starts throwing no-hitters, every inning he walks off the mound, I'm going to be screaming at him, "You're throwing a no-hitter, Casey! You're throwing a no-hitter, Arthur!" You know, I'm definitely going to do that just because he likes chatter.
I love it, Art. I love it. And I'm glad that you guys hit it off. I'm excited to see the interview because Dan knows him, and I'll tell you, he is, you know, and I mean this in a good way. He's a bit of a trip when you talk to him. I mean, it really enjoyed my conversation with Casey Mize, whom I call Arthur. I'm gonna have to see if he feels the same way. So hopefully he joins us one day where I can ask him if you guys are actually best friends or not. If this is a one-sided story here.
Yeah. That's probably, you probably got it. You probably hit the nail on the head there, Daniela. But, you know, hey, a man can dream, can he?
Yes, you can, Art. Yes, you can. Dan, let's get to question number 3. This one is for you. Jake from Armada asks, which positions are the most up for grabs before the season starts?
I would say because, you know, again, we're restarting. These were the positions that were up for grabs at the end of spring training, which came 2 weeks before the scheduled end, and that's third base and left field. In center field, you've got Jacoby Jones most days. Right field, probably Cameron Maben. He might be in left, but I think he'll be in right. And that leaves left field. And is it Kristen Stewart? Is it Travis Demeritte? Demeritte did have 4 home runs to lead the team in spring. That was two homer games. I think because Kristen Stewart has such promise, because he's hit at every level in the minor leagues, he's been more consistent through the minor leagues than Travis Demeritte. That left-handed power bat is something they so desperately need. I would give the edge to Kristen Stewart, but again, he's got to win that spot. How do you win that spot when you're just going to play inter-squad games from now until the beginning of the season in 3 weeks? But that's a biggie. And then third base remains a big spot, because I think you're set at second, obviously with Scope, first with Crone. Shortstop is going to be Nico Goodrum most days, and I think he's terrific there. Jamer Candelario, Dawel Lugo are going to be battling at third. Tigers like Dawel Lugo's defense better. The numbers say that Candelario is better, but it is interesting. I think the consensus among the coaching staff, they like Lugo better defensively at third. That's a big consideration. The upside with the bat for Candelario is, I think, higher than Lugo. I will tell you, all the coaches, even though there's nothing in the minor league numbers other than last year that really jumps out at you about Dawel Lugo, they talk about how this ball makes a different sound coming off his bat. And whenever you hear a coach say that, pay attention.
Like you said, Dan, it'll be difficult to earn a position in such a short spring training, especially when it's just inter-squad games. But I think it's going to make for some good friendly competition here in the next few weeks before the season starts. But we're going to move on to our final question of the mailbag. And this one's pretty interesting. Art, you answer first. Dan, you're going to follow him up. Jim asks, on a baseball team of all U.S. presidents, who is batting cleanup? Bush Sr. played college baseball, but Teddy Roosevelt spoke softly and carried a big stick. What do you think, Art?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you right now, even though he was clueless when he was in office what baseball was, I think the first, 16, 17 presidents have no idea what baseball is. James Knock Polk, do not sleep on him. I mean, that guy, very underrated president, by the way. I look at this and I think, William Henry Harrison, I think he could have been a real gamer. Unfortunately, his inauguration speech was 3 hours long in the rain, and he died a month into his term. So chances are, I wish we could have seen his potential. Teddy Roosevelt, I'm kind of leaning towards, but I really think, and I know because this is what Arthur Mize would want, without question, my cleanup hitter is Chester Alan Arthur. President of the United States. Honest to God, he was a president.
Interesting answer. Dan, do you have a follow-up?
I do. I looked at the best athletes among our presidents. Abe Lincoln was an accomplished wrestler, apparently. Teddy Roosevelt loved to box. We all know that. It was actually a boxing injury that caused him to give that sport up. You had Ronald Reagan at least playing athletes in movies. Barack Obama had a sweet three-point stroke by all accounts in pickup games. But the best athletes among our presidents, I don't think there's any question. You start with Gerald Ford, believe it or not. I think, he had the reputation, thanks to Saturday Night Live, of being clumsy. This guy was an All-American, played center, middle linebacker on 2 national championship teams, and played in 2 All-Star games, college All-Star games. He decided to go into politics instead of going to the NFL. Gerald Ford was a heck of an athlete, but none of these guys played baseball. It's clearly George H.W. Bush, the elder Bush, 340 hitter his senior year at Yale, couple of home runs, not a lot of pop, but he made contact. He is your clear choice in the cleanup spot on our all-presidents baseball team.
Wow, I'm impressed that you guys had such great answers for that question. I'm impressed with that. Nice work. Nice work. Before we let you go, Dan, I did want to mention it is one of our guests here on the Word on Woodward's birthdays today, former Tiger Sean Casey. It's his birthday, so we have to give a happy birthday shout out to Sean.
Good guy. Happy birthday, Sean.
He's been on the show, Sean Casey. I want to say Daniela, because I know, Gerald Ford, where he was an All-American at, right? That I was kind of leaning Ford, but Chester Alan Arthur is just such a natural because of my connection with Casey Mize. But I will say this, is that Gerald Ford was an All-American at the University of Michigan, Daniela. Just so you know.
I know, Art. I know. I thought it was coming sooner. I was just like, oh man, Dan, you had to pick him. Now we're going to hear about it.
Can I weigh in real quickly on another nickname for Casey Mize? He does come from Springville. How about, instead of the splendid Splinter, Ted Williams' nickname, the Springville Splitter for Casey Mize?
Ooh, and that's his pitch. That's his pitch. Double D. I mean, too bad he didn't come from Springfield, and we could call him Homer or the Isotopes from Simpsons lore.
I can't
get
compete with
you. Wait. That would. Could you imagine Casey Mize is from Springfield? His nickname is Homer, and he's a dominant pitcher. I mean, it all works.
It all does work.
But his name is Arthur. King of the Hill, King Arthur, Arthur Mize. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dan. A lot of great conversation in that mailbag. I'm really impressed with you guys. That
You
was
betcha.
great. So big thank you to Little Caesars as well for delivering the mailbag right here on the Word on Woodward. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheese or cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. You guys, we've still got a very, very busy show for you. We're going to talk to Chris McCoskey, Harna Ryan Singh, and later in the show, Kirk Gibson is going to join Art for the headliner. And we were talking some former U.S. presidents in the mailbag there, and now we're going to go to a special 4th of July edition of Catching Up with Carly.
That's right. Thanks, Daniela. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. We have Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Day, who just retired after over 32 years in the service. Thank you so much for your service, Jeff. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I appreciate you guys taking the time to honor me today, which I'm very honored that you guys are doing this. It's a very humbling experience. Can't express how great it is to be retired and how great it is to have support from the Tiger community. I really appreciate everything that they have done.
Absolutely. You have nothing but our support. So let's dive into some memories. Let's talk Tigers. So being from Detroit, what are some of your earliest Tigers memories?
Oh, boy. Lots of good ones. I remember Tigers, that was all the talk about growing up. I grew up in Detroit. I was born in 1970. We lived on 7 Mile down by Hoover. And we had an empty field next to our house. We were always playing baseball. Going down to the old Tiger Stadium was a trip that we did a lot. Just lots of good memories going in through there. Growing up as a kid, I was often told that I had like Mark Fidrich hair growing up, the bird pitcher, So, going out and just, the old Tigers teams back, from, the World Series back in the 80s. Just lots of good memories from, Trammell and Kirk Gibson and, all those guys. It was just really inspiring, to watch them and to see, good things coming out of Detroit during those times, because we know back then there was a lot of hard times, in Detroit. My dad worked for General Motors down in Hamtramck for a while. Of course, we know what happened down there. But that, and Sparky Anderson, man, I just love Sparky Anderson. Just watching him, it was just that was just like the epitome of a cool cat. He just was like kept things together. He was cool, he was calm, and just the things that he did with the organization were impressive.
Love it. Okay, and a little bird told me that you would go to Tiger Stadium. Your uncle had seats from the stadium in his house.
Yeah, he does. So my Uncle Tom's got a couple of seats from Old Tiger Stadium in his house. So it's pretty cool. When we go up and visit them, we get to sit in them and hang out and relax. But, when that stadium came down, there was a lot of good memories in there. And I think it was pretty cool that he was able to get some memorabilia out of there.
It's funny you say that. I remember growing up, my older brother, who's 5 years older than me, he had sand from the mound in Tiger Stadium. I thought it was so cool.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So prior to this COVID-19 pandemic, you were scheduled to deliver the game ball to the pitcher's mound from the game ball delivery program. It was supposed to be on July 4th, and your family was going to be there in town to celebrate your retirement. Now, of course, we know what happened with the season being delayed. You're scheduled to be honored by the game ball dedication. Not that this is the same as that, but we wanted to get to talk to you. Like, what would that have meant to you, and what does that mean to you to be honored in that way?
Well, I was really excited about what we had planned to do. And I tell you, Brandon is a world-class public relations guy. He went out of his way to help us out, get everything set up. And of course, Mother Nature came in and took over. And so that's what happens. But, traditionally when we retire, we do a ceremony, and usually we'll get people together in a small room and just have a simple ceremony and have a dinner or something afterwards. But, we wanted to do something different. So we wanted to do the retirement ceremony at Comerica Park. And what better time than the 4th of July to celebrate, our nation's independence. So, we had it set up to deliver the game ball on that day and then have the ceremony up on one of the decks. And then, things happened. So now we're on to this route. And I was approached by Brandon, said that they wanted to dedicate the opening game ball to me. And I was flabbergasted. I was just taken back. I said, wow, that's an honor. It really is, because that's the opening day. It's the opening game ball. To me, that's like, am I worthy of that or not? But I appreciate that. And I appreciate, them taking the time. There's other places and people that need to be recognized as well.
You touched on it, and let me expand on it a bit. So you are scheduled to be honored by the game ball dedication, where your name will be on the game ball, placed on the pitcher's mound on opening day. So that's incredible.
Wow.
I mean, you deserve it more now.
Yeah, I'm really honored. That's, even when you say it now, I'm just like, wow, that's very humbling. Yeah.
Well, it's the least we can do to say thank you. So now let's talk. You touched on the 4th of July. What does the 4th of July mean to you?
That really begins our freedom. That's our freedom as a nation. We are the best nation in the world. We do have a lot of work to do. We have to keep fighting for the rights for everybody. Fortunately, it's taken some, we'll just say it. It's taken some actions of some bad people that have brought things to light. Growing up in Detroit, you see a lot of stuff that happened there. But as the years come back that I've come and visited, to see the progress the city has made with turning things around, and, it just gives you hope. So you hope with, the 4th of July, our independence, our freedom, and that, just instill hope in people that, change can happen.
It can. And while you were deployed overseas, did you look forward to coming home and watching those Tigers games, or watching them while you were deployed?
Yeah, actually, while watching deployed was a big thing. I had an office in Japan. It was a very nice office when I was stationed there the second time, and they would come on. The Tigers games would come on during the day, in the mornings for us, or late in the day. So depending on the time zone difference, get them on. Other times when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, being able to catch the games there, sometimes it would be about 3, 2 in the morning, something like that. But, that was a good break. We appreciate the American Forces Network broadcasting those. We appreciate the Major League Baseball allowing the American Forces Network to broadcast those games. So it does make a difference, when you're doing your job and there's a lot going on, when you can sit down and have a distraction and talking about sports, and how much, how much better the Tigers are than, Kansas City, Cleveland, and all those other teams, and the Yankees and the Red Sox. So, yeah.
Love it. A little chirping. It is nice to have that.
Yeah, definitely.
You're so far away from home.
Right. Yes, definitely.
You spoke on Kansas City. Now let's talk about that. So you said you were stationed, we talked previously, you said you were stationed in Kansas City, and you were able to go to the game in Kansas City when Miggy clinched the Triple Crown. What was that memory like?
I did. That was so awesome. And I didn't really fully understand what was going on. I never heard the word Triple Crown before until I was reading the news that he was coming up. And when I was stationed in Kansas City in 2012, this is really the first time I've been stationed somewhere close to a city that had a Major League Baseball team, of course, okay. Kansas City Royals. Mm-hmm. And so Kansas City Royals, a very friendly team, friendly to military. They do well with the ticket prices. And so I saw the Tigers were coming to town. I said, definitely got to go. So I went down, and I was at his game when he won the Triple Crown. I was sitting behind the Tiger dugout about 7 rows back. And I tell you what, man, it was just an incredible feeling, to see that happen in person. And I saw his family bring his daughter down to the field afterwards. So it was just, an incredible feeling just to see that happen, and just to realize, what goes behind that Triple Crown. In the spring of 2013, when we were still there in Kansas City, when the season started again, I was actually at a game that Prince Fielder hit a foul ball, and I actually caught that ball. And
no way.
I did. So, and then I gave it to a friend of mine because his son was with us. So it was his first baseball game. So I was able to do that. But it was pretty cool just to see them, hitting like crazy, man. Just the way they hit the balls were awesome. Yeah.
I love that. And we haven't had the best of luck, the Tigers, that is, in the last season, but looking forward to this next season. It's a shortened season. It's a little weird, but what are you expecting from the Tigers? What are we going to see this season?
I'm expecting better than last year. How about that?
Yep. Nowhere to go but
It's
up.
really hard to follow. Yeah, yeah. Set the expectations high. But yeah, it's really. I'm curious. I'm watching this pitching. I want to see where this is going to go because the dugout makes or breaks it. So if we got a good pitching team that can get us through the games, and that's where I feel some of the challenges have been, especially towards the end when it's, that seventh, eighth, and ninth inning, and then that's sometimes where we feel our losses.
Well, I love it, and I know you're positive. I'm positive about the season. We're all looking forward to it, and I just want to give you a special thank you so much, and we appreciate your service and all you've done for us and this country. Thank you so much for joining me and catching up with Carly, presented by Meyer. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you. Y'all take care. I appreciate you having me. Go Tigers. World Series champions coming up this year. All right.
I love it. I love the positivity.
World Series champions. I love that. I'm just going to stick with that and we're going to keep it riding. Carly, we're going to need you to stick around for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by Motor City Casino Hotel. And this is another one where Art has something up his sleeve. So I'm going to pass it right over to Art. Let us know what's going on today.
Well, today I've officially made you a team. You're doing this together. I want you to converse among yourself. I want to invite
Carly's
our fans.
Probably upset
If
about
you
that,
want
honestly.
if you want to help Carly and Daniela in this, they're going to take their combined knowledge of sport and hockey, especially goalie masks. What's going to appear on the screen are 6 goalie masks. They're all Red Wing goaltenders. I've really made it easy for you. All you have to do is decide who is the owner of each mask, who wore the mask, so to speak. So, do you understand? No, you're going to see. You're going to see goalie mask. Go ahead.
Did you actually make this up while I was having trouble identifying tigers and masks? Because I seriously think this is too weird that it just fits perfect. I'm going to have such a hard time.
You know what the mark of a really good show is if you're able to carry something like a joke, a running joke, much like Seinfeld did through the whole program. And we are getting life out of this mask thing like I wouldn't believe. So
yeah, wow.
Hey, we should submit this for the virtual Emmy or whatever. This program, this one today is going to win. Yes. What I'm going to say is there's 6 masks up there. They're all Red Wing goalie masks. Now, all you have to do, and again, I invite all our fans listening on all our social media platforms. If you want to try to help Carly and Daniela, we're going to show them again. You two discuss amongst yourselves what you think, 1 through 6. And when you think you know which one, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to go 1. You don't have to go 2. Whichever one you think, go right ahead. How many can you name?
Okay, so I know for a fact.
I've got 5 of them.
Camera when I'm like leaning in and all my glasses on. I can't get closer to the camera. Well, I know for sure that Bernier is number 3.
Okay, so wait a second. Now, all right. Well, make sure before you're definitive, before you say Bernier's 3, make sure your partner, in this case, Carly, in your case would be Daniela, and vice versa, Daniela would be Carly. If you know, to make sure you're both in agreement, because there's a lot riding on this. There's a lot riding on this.
Carly, I'm with you on 3.
Yeah.
2 is Mike Vernon.
And then I want to say number 1 is Sawchuk. I need to put my glasses on.
Honestly, I don't know, but I feel like you're right. We can go with that. 4 is Hasek, I think.
Are you sure? Are you
Sure is
sure
a
about
strong
that?
word, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay, all right.
And then
How about
myself
I
like
guess
that.
Curtis
you have
Joseph.
five.
Curtis Joseph is 5.
All right,
I know that
Carly, are
one,
you
I'm
in
sure.
agreement?
Brows. The brows. I just can't decide
Yes,
if
the
1 or
Browns,
6 is.
exactly. 6, I think, is
Okay.
Rutherford. That's
6 is former goal Pittsburgh general manager
What?
right now, Jimmy Rutherford. All right,
yeah.
do you
Okay,
Okay,
wait.
yeah, number
Let's
All right,
1
make
is
Carly?
Carly, make sure we have. So 1, we're going with
Okay.
Sawchuck, right?
Right.
And then 2 is Mike Vernon.
Mhm.
3 is Bernier.
Mhm.
4 is Hasek. 5 is Curtis Joseph. And 6 is Rutherford.
All right, Carly, are you in
Carly,
agreement with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm so bad, and
Are you
especially like
sure
it's hard
about
to see
that?
if you have their faces. I'm like, yeah,
Okay, so
yes.
1 Sawchuck, 2 Vernon, 3 Bernier, 4 Hasek, 5 is Curtis Joseph. There you go. Now
Holland.
it's Ken Holland. You know, I'm pretty sure during his Red Wings career, and I only think when he was with the Maple Leafs and the Kings towards the end of his career, although he did win a Stanley Cup with Toronto, I'm pretty sure that Terry Sawchuck never wore a mask when he was the Red Wing goaltender. Masks were something that Jacques Plante, I think in the early 60s with Montreal, was actually like the first guy. So, yeah, so that's Ken Holland. As you can see, Ken was a much better general manager and hockey executive than he was as far as taste for goalie masks, because that is, wow, that's pretty strikingly bad in my opinion. But I love you, Ken.
I mean,
I was honestly going to say, is that a fake one?
Yeah,
Really? You
because
thought it was
Ken
fake?
Holland's not that old.
Right.
That looks like it's from like the 40s.
Well,
even the quality of the picture.
And, look at how they've evolved over the years. But look at Holland and Rutherford. Rutherford was a goalie back in the 70s. Look at how small those things were. I mean, how much protection? If you took a puck in the face, it doesn't look like there's even much padding or cushioning. I have no idea. Ken's mask looks like a water bottle or something. But look at how big they are. And then Hasek, of course, wears the helmet. We couldn't put Ozzy up there because his is so distinctive. But, Cujo with, obviously Cujo because of the Stephen King thing. Bernier looks pretty forlorn. That must be from this past season, that picture. And, and Mike Vernon, who adapted very, very well to being a Red Wing, won a cup here, obviously. But, okay, you've got 5 out of 6. So, unfortunately, you didn't win. So, I'm sorry. I mean, you were so close.
You know what? That means you got 1 out of 6.
Oh, no.
No.
I'm sorry. 5 out of 6 just isn't going to do it. There you go, girls. I'm sorry, ladies.
A or a B+.
There you go.
Whatever.
Enjoy your holiday week. Enjoy your holiday weekend. I know you're going to wake up in cold sweats, both of you, during the night, saying 5 out of 6. So close.
I can't. I have to say one thing about how did he breathe? And what I want to say is, like, when everyone's complaining about wearing masks out to the grocery store or like staying safe wearing the masks, like, look at Jim Rutherford. He was playing in a hockey game wearing that, whatever you want to call it, mask, like full face mask. Where I don't know how that man breathe. Like, I don't know how. It makes me feel like I need to take a deep breath. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I would, like, that makes me feel claustrophobic looking at that.
And like, what if it fell down a little bit and covered his eyes?
Right?
I mean, I like the concept where his eyes are the wheel, and then he paints the wings
Yeah.
on top of it. But I really look like that. That Ken Holland and Jim Rutherford's masks were rejects for Jason. Is that what are those the Friday the 13th meeting? I mean, those things look like horror film masks. I mean, they're pretty frightening. Maybe they intimidated shooters. I don't know, but those two are pretty frightening looking. And I don't know how much protection they really gave them. Although Ken was a little bit ahead of his time, because it looks like his is almost sort of a helmet and a mask kind of combined. Where Rutherford's is a straight on like kind of Halloween mask or something. At least Ken seemed to provide himself with more protection. Didn't help him in the net, but and now that I really look at Holland, you can tell. Oh yeah, that's Ken Holland underneath there.
Yeah.
like
Okay.
where are they?
Yeah, really, boy.
Oh, making an appearance.
Carly, Mia.
That's my cat. How is it that I literally just have a chair behind me? You have a whole cat castle, and my cat pops in the shot. What is happening today?
Because I don't let those jackasses in during the show, because they would be all over. They would be crawling all over. There's no way. I mean, they try to get in. They try to get in the back door here. And I can hear them, but it doesn't. But the mic doesn't pick that up. They're not trying. And Emilio is going to be meowing for a second because his dry food is in this room. But no way, man. I will not allow these cats to ruin this show. Yeah, I won't do that to you two.
I think our viewers.
You're right. You do enough of that, right, Art?
Yeah. I'm always thinking of you two, actually.
Just kidding, Art. You make this show and you win.
Oh no. Right. Yeah, sure I do. No, it's not. Now, I'm wondering, hey, does Mia know that behind you is a piece of artwork, or is she going to start grabbing at that stuff and trying to eat it?
Oh, like she's going to put catnip or something? I don't know what she's looking at right now.
She's hanging out.
Yeah. You know what would secure the virtual Emmy for us is if your cat started to attack the grass behind you.
Oh, now we've got dancing cats.
Really, that classic moment.
All right. I'm going to cut this one off. Thank you to Motor City Casino Hotel for bringing us Bet You Didn't Know this week and every week right here on The Word on Woodward. And Carly, we're going to throw it back to you because I know you've got some social media news for us.
That's right, Daniela. Thanks. Okay, first up, we're going to go on over to the Tigers. They showed up to Comerica Park. I know you chatted about it earlier and showed a little bit of a clip, but I have the clip with the names, so this is going to be a little easier. So we saw Ryan Green, Spencer Torkelson, Cameron Maven, Dylan Dingler, CJ Crone, and Daniela. Like I said, I was lucky enough to have those guys labeled in the video, so it made it easy on me. But I do think Art is right. They should put their numbers on the masks. And then on the Red Wings side, Joe Veleno posted these pics of himself wearing the Hockey Diversity Alliance sweatshirt, which 100% of net profits will go to supporting the Alliance, not just the Alliance, but Akima Lou's Time to Dream Foundation. So you can purchase your hoodie or sweatshirt now. You just have to go on over to bardown.com.
Well, thank you, Carly. We really appreciate it. And Mia, too. Keep her around. We might need her for Let's Socialize later. Make sure you guys are sending in your questions to Carly, no matter what platform you're watching on, and we will try to get to them later in the show. Right now, you guys, we're going to keep talking about the Tigers and the return to baseball. Art and I caught up with Chris McCoskey earlier this week. All right, everybody, let's get into Brush Street Beat, presented by McLaren Healthcare. Our guest today is Detroit sports writer for the Detroit News, Chris McCoskey. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're excited, and we're also excited that this week, The Tigers are reporting for spring training 2.0, we'll call it. What was your reaction to the 60-man roster, or 58 in this case, that they released?
Right. Not too many surprises. I think, there were a couple guys that were at the original camp who didn't come across. One specifically was Troy Stokes Jr., an outfielder who was on the 40-man roster, and I feel like he's going to be the one that's going to get cut off the roster to make room for Michael Fulmer, who's healthy. So that was a little bit of a surprise, but then having Michael Fulmer healthy is a nice bonus to take into this camp. So other than that, no, I was glad to see that a couple of the draft picks are on there. Spencer Torkelson, when he signs, will be on there, and the catcher Dingler will also be on there. And the prospects we always expected were going to be there, the top pitching prospects.
Well, one guy that was on there that I assume would be is Riley Green. I can remember, I keep telling this story over and over, but last year, he was slated to go fifth. The Tigers drafted him fifth overall. But the more I read about him, Chris, I couldn't believe that he didn't go first overall. Could he be that one player that the Tigers catch a break on? I mean, I know he's only in high school. He's a teenager, but he certainly seems like a guy that could make it fast.
But I don't think you would consider a guy you take fifth overall like, catching lightning in a bottle. They expect him to be a really good player. And when he came to Comerica last year and was hitting him off the Pepsi porch in front of Miguel Cabrera, this kid's got some talent. He was arguably one of the best hitters in camp this spring too when he got called over. So yeah, he's a high school kid. That's probably why he waited. It took that long to take him at fifth, which is not that long. But Spencer Torkelson is that guy too. Spencer Torkelson's probably going to get there quicker because he's older, obviously, and he's more polished as a hitter. But both of those guys, for years you heard the Tigers collecting pitchers and drafting pitchers, and their pitching prospects were way up there. Where's the hitters? Well, they got a couple of hitters in the soup right now that are probably going to be really dynamic players.
So you touch on Torkelson, Riley Green, and the young pitching staff, which includes Casey Mize, Matt Manning, Tarek Skubal. Which of these guys do you think we may see in this shortened baseball season?
That's a good question. I know that Al has talked about if this was a regular season, those guys would have played most of the year at Toledo. And then in September or maybe late August, they were probably going to get a look, two or three of them. And I think that's the same. It'll depend on performance. It'll depend on health. But Mize is obviously a candidate. Alex Faedo, I think, is a candidate. He's a little bit older. And Manning is just good. I mean, Manning's really good. And so is Tarek. So it could be any one of those guys. I don't think it would be all four, just because that's pressing your odds a little bit that all four would. But two of them for sure, and maybe three.
Chris, the assumption is in this 60-game schedule that pitching's going to be ahead of hitting. And if you look at the Tigers' even starting staff now, they're pretty formidable. Obviously Boyd and, Zimmerman, if he can stay healthy, and, Daniel Norris, he could, maybe he blossoms into the guy that they thought that they were getting when they traded for him. I mean, he was the guy in that deal. It wasn't Matthew Boyd, but right. it was Norris and, Nova, and we can go on, Spencer Turnbull, whom I actually love. But the real intriguing thing is, if Michael Fulmer comes back healthy, what dimension does that add to an already pretty deep pitching staff?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's the question. I think last year kind of was a precursor. When they used Daniel Norris and Drew Verhagen, Norhagen, we called them, they were doing piggyback starts. I think early on you're going to see a lot of piggyback starts because the arms they're not going to be stretched out. Besides Matthew Boyd, who probably can go 7-8 innings right now, the other guys would probably do some piggyback starts, and there's going to be room for six. And Tyler Alexander's also in the mix for a starter swingman. Right. So there's a couple guys you can piggyback with early on. And I think if Michael is healthy, Michael's got a couple more hurdles to get over, though. He's got to, field his position. He's got to get back into some kind of game shape. Been out since 2018, remember? So it's going to take him a minute to get some of that rust off him. But eventually he will be in that mix. And is he a long guy in the bullpen at first? Again, it depends on health and performance of the other guys and him.
Some of the rules that we'll be seeing in the 60-game schedule, I know the designated hitter is going to be universal, shall we say. Both leagues are going to finally have it. And, having a guy on second base to start extra innings, I mean, are you looking forward to some of these things that we really haven't seen, especially, the guy on second?
Well, you know I'm an old dude, right? So yeah, I'm not real thrilled with starting an inning with a guy at second base. I get why they're doing it. Obviously, you don't want 16, 17, 18 inning games now with everything being so condensed. That would kill your pitching staff. I get that. I hate it. I hope it's a one. I hope we never see it again after this year. I've been a long time proponent of universal DH. I don't need to ever see another. God bless Bartolo Colon and some of those guys. Daniel Norris, he's going to hate me because he can hit, but I don't need to see a pitcher hit anymore ever in the rest of my life. So welcome DH. National League, you're going to love it when you get to know it, for sure.
I know that CBA is going to be coming back up, I think, at the end of next season. And so
Right.
I know time served is supposed to be a big thing. And I kind of look at time served like we don't even know what the rule's going to be in a year and a half. So, take time served.
Like a prison sentence.
Right. Well, right. But it's baseball,
time.
Right. Service time. Chris, you knew what I was talking about. But the thing that I'm really kind of curious about is this taxi squad. You got 20 guys. Just what are they doing in Toledo? I mean, are they playing? Are they playing against each other? I mean, how viable is a taxi squad?
What's our favorite word? Inner squad, right? When you play inter squad games until they can't stand each other. There's going to be riots at Fifth Third Field because these guys are going to be so sick of playing against each other. There's going to be on the field melees. But that's all they can do. I mean, they have to. I don't think there's anything set up for them to play other taxi squads. That may change. I don't know. I'm not aware of it. So if there's any, so it's going to be. They're just going to play a schedule of inter squad games. They'll mix the rosters up the best they can with 20 guys. But it's not ideal again. But it's better than them sitting out until the fall, especially for the younger guys. At least they're going to play baseball for 3 months against major league players.
Do you envision this happening? Let's say that Manning's tearing it up in inter squad games. Do the Tigers think, let's give him a shot here in Detroit? I mean, I guess they're just doing it so they have a place to play, like you said. But I don't think what they're doing against each other should not have an impact of whether they're going to call them up to Detroit, I would imagine.
No, it's not. That's not so much on results. You know what I mean? It's not results like, geez, Isaac Paradis went 2 for 21 against Mize, Manning, Scoob. A lot of guys are going to go 2 for 21 against those guys in inter squad games. So that's not it. It's how they're getting their work, and the older guys need to be ready to play if there's an injury. Those guys are going to legit. There's guys down there that are legit. They're going to help them. Nick Ramirez, if he doesn't make the team coming out, Hector Santiago, guys like that who they're going to count on to play. Even Jake Rogers, maybe if some catchers get hurt, will be a factor. So those guys have a job to do. They have to stay ready. And how they evaluate and assess what they're doing down there, I don't think that the results matter as much as how they're looking to the development people and the coaches down there.
Chris, we talk about the young players a lot, but let's talk about a guy like Miguel Cabrera, who everybody said spring training 1.0, he looked like he was in the best shape that he's been in a long time. How crucial will that be for the Tigers' potential success in this season?
Oh, always. A healthy Miggy is a difference maker. We know that. That's a Hall of Fame, one of the best hitters of his generation for sure. And by all accounts, he sent out a Instagram of him taking BP not that long ago, and he looked the same, still skinny Miggy. And Al talked about him the other day, said that he hasn't missed a beat during this quarantine. Said he's still in good shape. He's taking care of himself, taking care of his diet. But I always caution that Miguel Cabrera's knee is not healed. He's got a chronic condition in his right knee. And the fact that he lost the weight is enabling him to play more like himself because obviously less weight, less pressure, blah, blah, blah. I'm a doctor. I know these things. But he's not healed. That knee could go. It's still chronically injured. So that's always a kind of a nervous thing about Miggy, but he's doing everything he can to be productive in his final years of his contract, for sure.
Chris, one of the questions that I always get based on what the Tigers have done recently, the last 2 drafting positional players, how crucial of a year is this for Candelario, maybe even Paredes? These were guys that we've heard about. I mean, Candelario is a mystery to me. I think he should be good. And I'm not saying he's bad, but I mean, is this make or break? Are some of these guys reaching the edge of the cliff, so to speak?
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of funny that I've probably written this as a make or break year for Jamer 2 years, at least 2 years in a row, because he's been like He came to camp knowing that he had to beat out Dawa Lugo. Neither of them have minor league options left. So when they came to camp, it was do or die for one of those two. And neither of them, for the longest time, seized the position. It was like, wow, there's nobody want it. It's like everybody's taking a step back. Toward the end, Jamer started looking more like himself, and he was swinging the bat better. He's had a wrist problem too. That's kind of, he's not been the same since he broke a small bone in his wrist. And I think he's getting back to himself. But Spencer Torkelson was drafted as a third baseman. Isaac Paredes is one of the top hitting prospects in the system right now, is a third baseman. So if Jamer and Dawa Lugo don't see the clock ticking, then they're not paying attention, because it is ticking. And then this could be, it's hard to say with a 60 that how much will this 60 games depend or determine their future. That's tough to say, but the clock's ticking for sure. He's 27. Jamer's 27, right? 20, about to be 27.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Chris, we appreciate you joining us today. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Great talking to you, though. We're hoping that baseball season is underway soon enough. Thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat this week and every week right here on the Word on Woodward. Art, he finished talking about that third base position, which I feel like is just a really interesting topic. We heard Dan Dickerson talk about the competition a little bit and how it's going to be hard to kind of prove yourself in these 3 weeks here of spring training. What do you see happening at third base for the Tigers?
Boy, I'll tell you, I think it'll be interesting. I would assume, and I think if you're a Tigers fan, this is what would work out probably best for you, is that if Candelario seizes that position right now. I really would like to see him do that. I look at him and I see a baseball player. I mean, not just a baseball player. I see a really good baseball player. And I know when he, when the Tigers traded for him, he came up. I think he hit for average. He had some nice power. He just looked the part, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm weird because it almost seems like his development, he's almost regressed instead of progressed. And I don't know exactly what's going on there. I'm sure it's a mystery to him and probably the Tigers too. So I would hope, and I guess this is more hope than what may or may not happen, Daniela, is that I just hope that Candelario seizes third base and that's his position.
As you said, Art, it will be interesting to see in these next few weeks as spring training unfolds. Art, the Tigers summer camp is still happening this summer, and it's coming up really, really quick. Any boy or girl who has ever picked up a bat, a ball, and dared to dream the dream will find these week-long camps about as close to Tigers baseball heaven as they can get. Each one-week camp includes 30 hours of professional instruction, a full Tigers uniform for each camper, tickets to a future Tigers game, and a camp Zoom meeting with the Tigers player, coach, or alum. The Tigers are committed to providing the best baseball camp experience for your athlete this summer. While we put a high value on the quality of instruction, we place an even higher value on the safety of all campers and staff, and we promise to put a first-class camp together that will operate in full compliance with the state of Michigan COVID-19 summer camp guidelines. Register your Tiger at tigers.com/camps. That's so great that they're still taking part in the summer camps this year. You guys, again, you can register at tigers.com/camps. Register your child now. Camps are starting this month, so not a lot of time left. Get on that. Tigers.com/camps. All right, you guys, we're going to get into downtown Hockeytown now with a very inspirational guest. All right, everybody, let's get into Downtown Hockeytown presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today we have a very special guest joining us. It's Harnarayan Singh, one of the play-by-play announcers for the Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi. We are so excited to talk to you today, Harnarayan. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with us.
It's my pleasure to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And I want to ask you right out of the gate, you have a very interesting background, and it actually starts with your grandparents who originally moved to Canada from India. They moved back because of just not feeling welcome in the atmosphere that they were in. But your parents decided to move back to Canada from India in the 60s, I believe that was. So you were born in Canada. What was growing up in a small town in Alberta like for you?
Well, it was a unique experience given that, I look different and, we spoke a different language at home. I listened to different music. My family's vegetarian, and small town Southern Alberta was not as diverse as you would imagine things are nowadays, especially when I grew up in the 80s. But one thing I quickly learned was in the time of that decade of the 80s, Wayne Gretzky and the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames as well, both teams had such a heated rivalry, and both teams were extremely good. I mean, 5 Stanley Cups for the Oilers, the 1 Stanley Cup for the Flames. And so we were surrounded by that hockey atmosphere. And I fell in love with the game. And I think my obsession with the game, when I reflect back on my childhood, it really helped me create a rapport with my classmates that I wouldn't have been able to create had it not been for the game of hockey. So I can reflect back and say that my childhood would have been drastically different had it not been for the game of hockey. When I talked about hockey, when I wore, Gretzky sweaters to school, all of a sudden I became normal, and I became one of the group of friends. And, the questions about my turban or my appearance, they kind of went by the wayside on those days. So, that really helped me create a lot of really good relationships with my classmates and with teachers and the like.
I know that hockey was your common bond with your buddies, but the one thing that I really liked about you, reading about you, is that it seems that you were born to be a broadcaster. That I mean, not that you might have been a great hockey player for all I know, but broadcasting was in your blood virtually from day one. You're doing exactly what you should be doing.
Well, great hockey player. Maybe I can add in great ball hockey player, because I'm not the greatest skater and no one in my family is. But in terms of broadcasting, as a child, I talked a lot. I still do. And one of the things that I loved was being a part of the game in that facet. I was fascinated with the broadcasters, with the people calling the game, with the hosts. And I was trying to emulate them in our living room and created a fictional stadium there. And sometimes I was playing the role of the media. Sometimes I was the GM of the coach. I had imaginary players and this whole system where, and it was, mid-season, off-season, it was the whole thing. The NHL awards, I was giving out my own, and I had my parents and my family really supported it with toy microphones and all sorts of things like that. And so that obsession, even though people early on realized I loved that and I wanted to do that, a lot of people cautioned me along the way, saying that no one like you looks like you on TV, and that, the chances of you making it, especially in sports media, are very, very slim. And so I had a lot of professional people, family, friends, or even when I went to high school, or if I went to when I went to broadcast school, which even then I just thought that, I'm going to regret it if I don't give it a shot. And, professors in my broadcast school or my first broadcast jobs, I was always being told that, okay, if you're going to try to do this, maybe you should stick to behind the scenes, or maybe news would be where you might have a shot. But no one was encouraging me to actually give it a go on sports, just because of the fact of who I was and how I looked. So, it's been a very thrilling experience. I'm very grateful to have, been able to eventually become part of the hockey family, and it's very close and near and dear to my heart. And so this journey is something special, because I'm really proud to say that it's also encouraging other people who are diverse to look at themselves and say, hey, if he can do it, then why can't I? And that's one of the messages that I really love getting out to other children who are in school right now.
There's a story that you tell, and maybe this is the first time when Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi, where maybe you figured, wow, I'm having an impact on my community, is you show up to an event, it's teeming with people, you're kind of curious, who are they here to see? They're here to see you and your colleagues, and you have an encounter. I love this story. You have an encounter with a grandmother. Can you please repeat that? Because it must have been such a wonderful experience, and something I think you'll probably never forget.
Yeah, it's an amazing time frame, and it really allows you to realize the impact of what you're doing. I mean, what we're doing with Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi, it's, maybe it started off as something that was a want, but it's become a need for the community, and it's bringing people together with the excuse of this beautiful game of hockey. And so we have created on Saturday nights, this is what, has happened with other people who've been involved in hockey for decades and decades, that you come together as a family, all of your generations, you sit together and watch a game. And since the inception of Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi, we've had a lot of feedback where, you know, grandchildren, grandparents, everyone in the family is sitting together because it's so special. You know, they might not have been watching the game before, but now they've become fans because of our show. And so we went to this event that was organized by our sponsor at the time. And we show up there, and yeah, as you mentioned, there's like a lineup of people out the door, and I was absolutely astonished. It was the first time we had ever done anything in the grassroots level with the community. And, you know, soon enough figured out that they're all there to meet myself and my colleague at the time. And this, as we were kind of signing autographs, taking pictures with people, talking with viewers, first time ever I'm experiencing this in the first couple of years of the show, a grandmother walks in and she's with her grandchildren, and she's actually using a walker to walk in to meet us. And so she's wearing her traditional Punjabi outfit. She's got like a head scarf on and a Punjabi suit. And over top of it, she's wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. And I know that Detroit Red Wings fans, you might not like that, but just hear this story out. So she comes over, and, you know, out of respect, like in our faith, we fold our hands together. And I kind of got up just because she was elderly, and kind of almost tried to help her over to our table. And she was emotional. She was teary-eyed right from the bat. And I said, "What's wrong? Is there anything I can help you with?" And she said, "You know, son," she called me son just because, you know, that motherly, elderly, grandmotherly feeling that she was probably having, and that I felt too. And it was so heartwarming, so touching. And she said that the Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi show had changed her life, changed her family's lives. And I said, "How?" And she goes, "Well, before that, she had no connection with her grandchildren because she was born in India and her grandchildren born in Canada. And there's a technological gap, there's a language gap, there's a cultural barrier, there's all sorts of things that, you know, they couldn't connect, but they were hockey fans. The grandchildren were automatically hockey fans being born and raised here. And so because of Hockey Night Punjabi, she learned the game, she became a fan. And she said ever since then, they think it's so cool that, hey, grandma from India who just came over not too long ago is loving the game that we love." And she said it's changed their whole relationship. And you know, that was such a story that really moved me then. And it's something I remember vividly just because it showed the impact of what we were doing.
Your broadcast style, every broadcaster has their own style, and obviously Bonino is going to live in infamy. But I am kind of curious. Your style is based on a Punjabi singing style. Do I understand that correctly? So you're not only are you a great broadcaster, you have quite maybe a singing voice. Maybe you're going to cut an album or something soon. I'm not sure, but can you explain that? I mean, because it is unique. It's unique and it's very entertaining.
Well, we are pretty loud. I mean, you know, there's you should see weddings. Like Punjabi weddings are a pretty big deal, and they last a whole entire week. And so, you know, we're loud and proud, and, you know, colorful outfits, or our food is spicy, all of it, like any angle you look at. And so why not introduce all of those elements into the Punjabi call? And so one of the things is I actually love music. And so I play a number of instruments and sing as well. And so one of the really big traits of a Punjabi singer is it's almost like a competitive thing where if you can hold on to a note for as long as possible, it's considered to be, you know, one of a really good trait to have in your singing, in your vocal career. And so I've incorporated that in some of my goal calls. And what I try to do is if a big goal is scored, you know, usually third period or especially overtime, I'll use the last name of the player and kind of in a melodic note, try to keep that going as long as possible. And my goal is to beat out the arena horn. And so I've kind of intermingled Punjabi music, Sikh music into my call. And it's something that I did like a number of years ago, not really realizing that it would become a signature, I guess, in my style. But it's something that I've utilized, and you know, I'm really happy that a lot of people are liking it.
That's awesome. Beat out the goal horn. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
try that one day. See if I can even possibly get that loud and do it.
It's fun, trust me.
I
Well, do
love
you
that.
have people? Do you have people? Are you tired of it? I mean, if you were in the United States, anywhere you would go, people would be yelling "Bonino, Bonino, Bonino, Bonino" to you. Do you get that in Canada? And are you tired of it? Does it happen to you often?
And especially Nick Bonino and I have become friends, and him and I have both chatted about this, that we have this lifelong connection with one another, because he gets that from players on the ice. He gets that from teammates. I mean, even when he signed on with Nashville, the Nashville Predators tweet was Bonino, Bonino, Bonino. I mean, he's gotten it everywhere. I've gotten it everywhere. I mean, especially in the city of Pittsburgh. But how can you get tired of something like that? In my perspective, it's the closest a broadcaster can get to being a part of the game. We were invited to the Stanley Cup parade in Pittsburgh, and it's such a special connection that we have during that Stanley Cup run. And so I don't think I'll ever get tired of it, because it puts a smile on my face ear to ear. And if Nick Bonino himself is telling me so many of his friends and relatives have that as their ringtone, it doesn't get any better than that.
I need to ask you if MVP of the league, the awards are coming up. Is Draisaitl the shoo-in? Do you think he should be the MVP of the National Hockey League?
Can you even imagine that? I don't think I or a lot of hockey people would have ever imagined that we would even be having Draisaitl's name in this conversation with Connor McDavid on his team. I mean, it's pretty incredible, but what a coming out party for Draisaitl. I remember when he signed his contract, and a lot of people were like, the Oilers overpaid, and here he is with what he's making per season, and he looks like he's a bargain. So especially when McDavid went out with injury, and Draisaitl, they didn't skip a beat. I think everybody was really worried at that time, Oilers fans, that, okay, here we go, 8-game losing streak, or, it could be doomsday, but Draisaitl took charge. It's one of those years where, okay, so if it's not Draisaitl, McDavid could be in the mix, and then you have Nathan McKinnon is the other guy I would say is, where would Colorado be without him? But Draisaitl, because of the sheer fact, the Art Ross Trophy, and just how dominant he was, power play points, I think he's got to be a strong candidate, if not the top candidate for it.
So while we're on the awards, what about the Calder Trophy? I know there's a lot of people that say Cale Makar. We've seen some Quinn Hughes. What do you think in that situation?
It's pretty interesting, because both of them, it was seamless. Their foray onto their teams, their maturity, their skill level. And I know I'm going to disappoint a lot of Vancouver Canucks fans by saying this, but had Cale Makar not been injured, there would have been a more significant difference, I think. But the amount of games that he did miss, it allowed Quinn Hughes to move up points-wise. The one thing going for Quinn Hughes is just look at the Canucks power play in terms of the impact one player has had. You remove the Sedins not that long ago, and everybody's worried about their power play. In comes this young guy, this young kid, and he's the quarterback. And their power play was one of the top power plays in the league in the regular season. So he's got that going for him. But I still think Cale Makar has an edge, just because of the fact that before his injury, he was kind of up there, and he was the top candidate for that, running pretty much the entire season.
First of all, good thing you said something good about Quinn Hughes, because there's a lot of University of Michigan fans watching this right now. So I always have to get Michigan in for one. So Quinn, obviously a good Wolverine. But with that said, you're very enjoyable. It's great having you on. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it as well.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was truly a pleasure to chat with you, and your story is inspirational to all of us. I can promise you that. Again, thank you, and a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockeytown. Labatt Blue Light for refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Another big thank you to Hunter Ryan for joining us. His story, like I said, is just incredible and so inspirational. And the influence that he is having on the game of hockey is nothing short of amazing. And you guys, if you want to learn more about Hunter Ryan, he is actually in the process of releasing a book. It's coming out and it's called One Game at a Time. It's being published by Penguin Random House and it's available for pre-sale right now before its release in September. Make sure you do check that out because like I said, his story is great and you could tell that he's so passionate about the game of hockey. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on his book. And right now, you guys, we're going to get to the headliner. I'm going to pass this one over to Art.
Thank you, Daniela. It is time for the headliner brought to you by Miller Lite, and I'm really looking forward to this. Believe it or not, we're the exact same age. I know people find that hard to believe, but Kirk Gibson
53?
joins us, former Tiger. Yeah, 53. Hey, I like it. Hey, I'll go 43, Gibby, if you want. But
Yeah, we just
Kirk's a
don't
little
look
bit.
it.
No, we definitely don't. But Gibby, and let me begin this by just saying that I have been aware of Kirk Gibson a lot longer than he's been aware of me because he was a high school star at Waterford Kettering, played at Michigan State, and then was a Tiger. And being someone of the same age, I would assume in my class it was always Gibby and Rick Leach were like the two guys from my birth year that were always, I think, the best athletes in the state. But with that said, it's great having you. I first want to ask you, I get this asked all the time, how is Kirk Gibson feeling? How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm going full bore. I have Parkinson's. That's been diagnosed since 2015, had it probably since 2007. You have to adapt. It adapts to you somewhat. You learn how to handle it, but it poses new challenges. So you have to change your therapies. You have to change your attitude sometimes. You have to change your medications. And it takes some getting used to, but I've had great support. And the fight goes on, not just for me, but for many others that we try and help through my Kirk Gibson Foundation.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the Kirk Gibson Foundation. I know it does wonderful things. If somebody listening right now, a lot of people are, and they want to get involved, are there some events or anything coming up, or can people just go to a website and contribute if they'd like?
Well, go to the website, kirkgibsonfoundation.org, and there are some events. We are planning on having a golf day on August 17th. That is sold out. However, we're also going to have on the same 14th to the 17th weekend of August a virtual golf, and you can go there for details. So everybody can play, everybody can contribute. We promote teamwork. That might shock you a little bit. Collaboration, cooperation, and teamwork. Bring people together that don't normally maybe hook up, link up. We look for good matches. We've got a lot of money working on research. We respite programs through the Michigan Parkinson's Foundation. We had a big gala last year. We've got the Big and Loud program, the alumni program going on around the state, just trying to help people. And I took a call yesterday from somebody who just was diagnosed and try and help them get through that first stage, get them to understand they've got a lot of happy days ahead should they choose. But you do have a new normal. And you have to attack and you have to fight back. And, when you're really down, you can maybe get a hold of me or see me somewhere and I'll try and lift you up because you're going to have to lift me up in a day or two as well.
Let's move on to the Tigers a little bit. Certainly Spencer Torkelson's been signed. They're going to have their summer camp, their redo, a lot of young arms. But obviously, Kirk, you've been there. You know what it is to be a Major League Baseball player. A 60-game schedule. Do the Tigers have a chance in your mind?
I think they do, and they probably think they do. The games are more important. You have a 60-game sprint, not 162. You get off to a bad start, you're toast. There's been some talk about Mize and Manning and Screwval. To be, a lot of people would like to see them. They were dominant in the minor leagues. They have been. They've got great stuff. They're as good a talent as we have. And you might not want to rush them because they always say they want to keep that extra year of eligibility for free agency with the club. But I would argue this is a perfect time, 60 games. You can do a 6-man rotation. You can send them down to the taxi squad, I believe, if you want to give them a rest. Then they get to go deeper into the season if you make it into the playoffs. If not, you send them to the fall ball, or you send them to instructs. And it's a real valuable. You get them into big leagues, start get the attitude about it's good pitching. I believe in defense. I believe in good base running. And they've worked so much on it, and the Tigers front office has done a heck of a job in this time during the pandemic of coaching the coaches. I mean, these guys have worked hard. They have seminars, a lot of Zooms, meetings going on, and they're coaching the coaches. There's continuity. They've got a ton of new metrics and new toys and tools. It's a different game, Rapsodo. You probably don't know what that is, but stay tuned because we'll be talking about that. It measures swing speed, angle, your arm speed, the rotations on your curveball. They have a different way of looking at how you're accomplishing things. And if you're wondering why your curveball is getting hammered, you adjust the spin on it a little bit, the speed on it a little bit. That's the ticket. Sometimes pitches blend to each other, you get your butt beat in. We don't want to do that. So, the Tigers have been taking it on the chin the last couple of years. And I think the attitude's good going in. It's if you can't go for 60 games, you can't go. But you want to get to those playoffs, get those young kids with some reps under their belt in the big leagues. It's a tough business decision. Do you save them for that 6th year now, or do you burn a year in 60 games and maybe make it to the playoffs and lose them after 5? But I say it's time to go now. You're tired of them losing, aren't you, Art?
Yeah, you bet. Hey, Kirk, I'm right there with you, buddy. Yes, I definitely am. I'm tired of it. let me ask you this. With that said, how about a guy like Spencer Torkelson? Do you see him maybe making a major league debut in the 60 games if he's ready, or do you think they'll hold him back?
I don't. I think Riley Green's on the squad. They'll give him some time up and down. They're gonna try not and burn that extra year of free agency. But the experience of being in camp right now, plus we're also going to play. You either put them down in Gulf Coast League in Lakeland with young kids, or you bring them up here with the top 60 in the organization right now, get them exposed to that as much as you can. So if Mize is down there throwing BP and they're playing games against each other, that's who Riley's going to see. He's not going to see Casey Mize down there in Florida. So I'm saying they're challenging these young kids, pushing them, they're taking right to the brink. If they fit, they'll plug it in.
Right. And I agree with you. That's a good thing. That's what you want. I mean, you want on those. I guess they'll be in Toledo for those 20 games if the guys that don't make the 40-man squad, and they'll be playing against each other. But this is really high-end talent. Have you been impressed with what the Tigers have done, especially drafting wise? Because the last 2 drafts have been heavy positional players as opposed to stockpiling the arms that they have now.
Well, they had the arms before. I went to Arizona on something else, and I watched Torkelson play down there at Arizona State. I thought he was very solid in his approach and his swing path. He's got good pop. He's not a burner, but he moves fairly good. Personally, I'd like, they put him to third base, put him to right field. I'd like to see him at first base first. He's a young kid. If he could turn into a good first baseman, I mean, you got shortstops, who they say is maybe the most important position on the field. You got catcher, you get the middle infielders. That first baseman, he stops a lot of errors by those infielders. Can you pick it? You got good footwork over at first base. The old Eddie Murray, you come over there and he's talking to you, and he's setting you up. So that's that would be a dream come true for the Tigers if he could play first base. And I'd like to see him over there to, get some experience over there and give him a go at it. Let's see if he can be one of those guys, because you look into the future, you pretty much project the bat, but the glove, we'll see how it goes. But he's going to be playing on better fields than he's ever played, and he's a gamer, and I hope that it works out that way.
Well, I mean, you're getting me all fired up. I want to ask you about a player that I'm really. When the trade was made and he came over to Detroit, I'm at a loss for words because I can't understand why he hasn't developed. Maybe you can answer this question, Kirk. Maybe you can. I don't know. But I always thought that Jamer Candelario looked like he was a real player. I know he struggled. I know he's had a few injuries. I mean, is time running out on him?
I don't think it's running out. I like Jamer. He's shown talent. Some think maybe he's laid back, which he kind of is, but he's a good kid. He's determined. Sometimes it's just timing. It's the right mix around you to get you to the next level. He's come over here. I think he felt a lot of pressure, and, we all put expectations on these guys, and it affects some differently. He came over from a different organization. Sometimes you come over from different leagues. It's not that easy. It's a tough game. We'll see. But at this level, if you don't get her done, the Tigers got to make a decision on not only him but other players. You move them out, move the next guy in. There's a time frame for everybody. But he's solid. He's got the ability. Get him relaxed. Make him feel that maybe not too much pressure. Sometimes the terminology, you have to change it a little bit to get him that final finished product. So good kid, good player. He could be a surprise this year and have a heck of a year.
Well, I hope he does. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I wanted to ask you what I think is really unique about your baseball career is that you've hit 2 huge home runs in the World Series. Obviously, the one off Eckersley as a Dodger is the one that will live forever. Considered one of the most exciting moments in all of World Series history. Yet here in Detroit, your hometown, you're known, or at least for me, is clinching the World Series in '84 against Goose Gossage in the 84 against the Padres. I think it's odd. I mean, when you're in Detroit, do people talk about the Detroit home run? And then when you're everywhere else in the country, do they always bring up the Dodger home run?
Yeah, it's more people have watched the Eckersley home run, but those, I don't really look at it like that. I just did my part and chipped in. Sometimes you feel guilty about people giving you too much credit for what you did. I did that because of my teammates set me up, put me in a position to do it. And they supported me when I was down. They kicked me in the rear end. I kicked them in the rear end. Those were magical teams, and they were put together properly. And they had masters running them. Sparky was a master. Tommy Lasorda was a master. They worked magic. They did things early in the season, so when we got to the playoffs, we were not nervous. We were loose. We had fun. We just went. We came right out in San Diego that year. We just attacked. Then Tram in Game 4 with a couple dingers. Then in the 5th game, I hit a couple. Dave Bergman had great at-bats during the year. Darrell Evans, Lance Parrish hit a home run off of Goose. Before that, mine, I guess, just gets a little more play, because he was my first AB in the major leagues, and he owned me. And, he challenged me, and he was supposed to intentionally walk me, and he didn't. So when you do that, it puts a little more drama to it. Hey, thank God I did hit those 2 home runs, because there's certainly enough negative things to say and were said about me and my lack of playing ability from time to time.
I mean, I know you well enough. I know Sparky, when you first broke in with the Tigers, said you're the next Mickey Mantle. And he always took it back and said, maybe I put too much pressure on him. But if I know you like I think I know you, did that even bother you that he would say that you're the next Mickey Mantle? I think it kind of went in one ear and out the other.
Cool. Yeah, that was cool. I said that was cool. I mean, come on. I hoped I was. But, I did some Mantle-ish things. But I wouldn't say I fulfilled Mickey Mantle's shoes. But that's just Sparky. He did it for a reason. Sparky also stood in front of me in 1983 and acted like he was going to be a defensive back. And I said, get out of there. I'll run you over. He goes, come on, big boy. I played press coverage on you. I went out there and looked over my right shoulder, and he kind of bit like on an out play. And Dave Roseman was throwing me a baseball. and I smoked him. I rolled him, steamrolled him. He got up, his glasses came off his head. He was crying. He said, that SOB is crazy. I said, hey, I'm crazy or the SOB that challenged me? I was always good for a challenge. I failed many times, but and that's just kind of who I was. I'm not saying it was always the right thing to do, but that's kind of how I operated. It's kind of how I operate today. And you got to learn where to govern her at. It can be valuable sometimes. Sometimes it can be disruptive, but that's why we try and grow up before we say bye-bye. Sparky we had this little deal where he'd say, I'd walk by his office, he'd go, big boy, and he'd go like that, come in here and shut the door. We had a deal when we had to have a talk, but the door was shut. I would say what I had to say, and he'd say, you got to get something off your chest. Then he'd say, are you done? I'd say, yeah. And he'd say, out the door. And one day I hit the home run as a walk-off in like the 10th inning. I went by, I was nuts, as you're well aware. I was very vocal. I believed in affirming good things. He says, big boy, come on in here. And he looks at me and he says, do you hit that home run if Lewis Whitaker doesn't make that play in the 9th inning? Lewis needs some love. So I said, he says, you got me? Out the door. So when I came in, when you guys came in, where'd you go? Me or Lou Whitaker? You went to me and I said, hey, you guys are at the wrong locker. I was happy to hit that home run, but how about Lewis? And it was a great play. I mean, it's not like he taught me. It's cool when you give people like that, because you were just walking around and all of a sudden you knew you were doing it. You had the juice to start to flow a little bit. You had a little treat right there, and you want to screw up. It was crime time. And that's valuable to be able to give other people that as well. You don't have to hog it all. It's not about, that's the greatest thing about being a world champion. It's winning the World Series and nobody caring who gets the credit. That's what it's all about. I mean, it's good to be people to fawn over you and give you credit all the time, but it's more fun and more valuable to do the other. That's who taught me. Sparky mentored me to do that, and I've done it today.
You're one of my all-time favorites. I really, I appreciate you just for the human being that you are, and also our friendship. Thank you for joining us on the Headliner. Best of luck.
Guys,
Anything
we'll
I get
there soon.
All right, thanks, Kirk. Take care, buddy.
All right, buddy. I'm gone.
All right, there you have it. That is the Headliner, Daniela, Kirk Gibson, and the Headliner brought to you by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer, only 96 calories, tastes great, and it is available for delivery. Yeah, I could go on with Gibby for a long time. I know that I have, but Daniela, he is one of the great people that you're ever going to meet.
Art, as if his resume wasn't impressive enough, he now has 2 Emmys to add to that for the work that he's done to raise money for Parkinson's, as he talked about with you. It's amazing, the stuff that he is doing. And I know that sometimes he might have good days, might have bad days, but he looks really good. He sounded really good. And I was so happy to hear that he's feeling well.
Congratulations on winning the Emmys, but I think you could tell, he downplays everything that he does as individual accomplishments. He always thinks team first. And I worked with Gibby at a couple of radio stations over the years, and the one thing that I can say about him is that he would prop everybody up. Like he said, he gave the love to Lewis Whitaker. Lou Whitaker, one of my all-time favorite Tigers, along with, of course, the Torque Man and Arthur Mize. But with that said, I just appreciate him because Gibby was a wild man in the beginning. He really was. He pretty much admits it. But the maturation process and the man that he developed into is extraordinary. And he helped me out a lot. He would bring me into interviews in the radio booth when he had a big star. He'd say, "Art, come on, I want you to be in on this," And my show was over. I was prepared for the Red Wing pregame show or something. And so Gibby takes care of him. And I like to take care of Kirk too. He's truly a tremendous man. And his battle with Parkinson's right now. If anybody is going to attack it it's going to be Kirk Gibson, as he said. And there's days when, he says, I need lifting up too. And hopefully I'll be there for him because there were many, many days that Kirk Gibson lifted me up. And I truly appreciate him. He is, he's one of our own, as I like to say, obviously being from here. But it doesn't get better than Gibby. I mean, fierce, intense, a good guy, and just, that intensity, the intensity that he has and the way that he approaches everything is inspirational. I know I'm getting a little corny. I get a little emotional when I talk about Kirk because I like him so much. But hey, Gibby's the best. He is just simply the best.
Yeah, and you talk about his intensity, Art. He brings that to all aspects of his life, and he's such a great guy. Another thank you to Kirk for joining us for the headliner presented by Miller Lite. Now, we're going to bring Carly back and get into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. Carly has been all over our social media accounts and taking your questions. I'm sure she has some great stuff for us as we head into this holiday weekend.
I do. Thanks, Daniela. I got a few awesome questions. First one up we have is for Art from Gary Vandekar. He wants to know, who does Yzerman take at number 4? One of Perfetti, Drysdale, or Rossi would be his guess. What do you think, Art?
I would think that one of those 4 are very, very good choices. I would think that if he goes for best player available and the top 3 forwards go, as we think, obviously Lafreniere and then Stützle or Byfield and then vice versa. Whoever goes second is going to go third. I think he's going to go Jamie Drysdale. I really do. I even though he's a right-handed shooting defenseman, he's a definitive number 1. I just look at Drysdale as being that guy. Now, if he wants to go off the board, really, and if he wants to most cider us, as I like to say, maybe he takes Askarov, the goalie. I know if Ken Daniels were here, he'd go, all right, that's just you. That's wishful thinking. All right, Daniels, it is. It's me, and it is wishful thinking. But I definitely think that I definitely think it's going to be Drysdale. Everything I've read about him, definitive number 1, not a first pair defenseman, a number 1 defenseman. Thinks the game really well, can make that outlet pass. Can remember what made Nick so great, Nick Lidstrom, and besides just being great at everything he did, when Nick got that puck, no sooner was it off, it was off his stick and the Red Wings were heading up ice. Sidney Crosby tells a really great story, and I know I'm going a little bit on a tangent here, about Nick Lidstrom. They said after his rookie year, they said, what is the, and hopefully Drysdale can be this kind of player. I'm sure counting on it, or similar. What was the thing that surprised you most about being your rookie year in the NHL? Sid Crosby says it was how good and how dominant of a game Nick Lidstrom had, because I would think I'm making a move towards the net and I go up against Nick and, I'm sitting there and I'm doing all these fancy moves skating in on the Red Wing goalie and he's not even in his stance. He's like, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? I'm about to shoot on you. That's because Nick took the puck away and the Red Wings are up ice. I mean, that's the kind of first outlet pass. That's everything I've read, everything I've seen about Jamie Drysdale. That's intelligence. That's it. I know he's a defenseman. I know they have a lot of right-handed shooting defensemen, which in my book you can never have enough of. I think where they're at right now, best player available and they need all over the board, Jamie Drysdale.
Got it. Love it. All right. Fingers crossed. And then the next one is for Daniela. Adam Kerr asks, would you guys like to see Torrey Krug in a Wings jersey? It's an interesting question.
Oh my gosh, of course we would like to see Torrey Krug in a Wings jersey. Hometown guy, played at Michigan State, so I obviously automatically have a soft spot for him. But not only all of that, he's a great defenseman. And I know that we've talked about it a few times on this show that the Red Wings need to make some kind of a splash in free agency, but Steve Yzerman would probably be hesitant to sign some long-term deals. It will mostly be a 1 or 2 year deal to kind of get this team over the hump. But Art, I know we've talked about this one before. If Torrey Krug said he wanted to come to Detroit, Yzerman may consider that long-term deal.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, at this point where the Red Wings are at in unrestricted free agency, maybe a goaltender, a veteran goaltender, because they really need one. No knock against Jonathan Bernier. I would say that, Steve at this point I think he probably would rather give 1-year deals in unrestricted free agency. He's going to have to go 2. He went 2 last year, as I keep saying over and over. But Torrey Krug, Priangelo from St. Louis, that might be somebody. I think the guy on this list that they really are trying to target, although Calgary traded for him at the trade deadline from the Blackhawks, is Eric Gustafson. Only 27. He fits that kind of build. I think the Red Wings at this point are going to go for a goalie and actually a couple of defensemen in unrestricted free agency. I think that's what they're going to look at, and then get a veteran scoring forward maybe to help out a guy like Philip Zadina. And I want to get a plug in. Brand new Red and White Authority podcast. I got it up yesterday. Philip Zadina from the Czech Republic. So please give that a listen to. But I think this about Torrey Krug. Good Livonia kid too. Livonia's produced some pretty good hockey players. Mike Donnelly is one, and obviously another one is certainly Mike Modano, who was born in Livonia and grew up on the Livonia-Westland border. The mean streets there right on Joy Road is the border between Livonia and Westland. A couple Livonia Franklin guys, by the way, Donnelly and Modano. But Krug, and Modano's going to be the best out of all of them. Let's be honest. But Krug right there, I think where Boston is right now, and how good they are, and how he is phenomenal. Jeff Blashill, you've heard Jeff Blashill every time, because he and Torrey are close. Every time he talks about Torrey Krug, what does he bring up? The way he controls a power play. And, this is a league. If you have great special teams, you're going to be a pretty good team. And Torrey Krug is essential. So I would say this. I would say that where Boston is at as a team right now, I can't see the Bruins letting him go unless he wants to go. But if you're that close to winning a cup, and the Bruins are, I think they have a better chance at getting Lafreniere at the 4th pick overall than they have probably of prying Torrey Krug away from the Bruins.
Understood. Okay, so last question we have is a fun one. It's for both of you. A fan wants to know, they want you to build your Mount Rushmores of the Word on Woodward guests. So this will be a fun one. So Daniela, you want to start it off?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So I guess maybe let's do this. Maybe we should go by the different segments that we do. So Brush Street Beat, Downtown Hockey Town, Catching Up with Carly, and the headliner. That would be 4. So that would work out well. All right. I'm going to start with Brush Street Beat. And I'm going to have to go with, I think, Ron Gardenhire, which was just last week, I think it was. The shows all start to blend together, so I'm sorry if that was a couple weeks ago. But, I think Ron Gardenhire is up there.
Okay, Art, are you going to put someone in for the headliner?
Well, for the headliner, even though we haven't talked to him, I'm obsessing over Arthur Mize right now. Better known, I guess, as Casey, unless you're good buddies with him. But aside from that, we've had a lot of great guys on the headliner. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's we've had a lot of great guests on everything. I would say that if I had to do a Mount Rushmore of headliners, guests on the headliner, I would put Gibby up there. I would. I know we just talked to him. I would put Gibby up there. Actually, I would put Steve Yzerman up there. But Steve, we keep running out of time. It's kind of like the Matt Damon, Jimmy Kimmel thing. Steve's always waiting. He's eager to be on. He's right there. He's queued up. He's in the box. He's ready to go. And damn it, don't you know? It's 2:00 and we have to say sorry, Steve. So Steve would be up there, but we keep running out of time. Again, Steve, I humbly apologize. I do. I mean, it's all on me. Don't blame Daniela. Don't blame Carly if we run out of time. It's because of me. And eventually, Steve, we'll get you on the show. I promise. We'll get you, and we'll give you the headliner segment. It'll be the headliner. But I would say, Gibby.
And Gibby.
I don't know. It's so tough. I mean, I finally, but there's too many. I love
I
talking
know,
to Chris
I
Draper.
know.
I mean, there's
Why
just,
don't
you know what? I guess
think about it?
what this is
I
leading
got some
to
answers.
is that it's a Mount Rushmore of, you have to tune in each show because you never know. You have a Mount Rushmore guest in every segment. That's how I'm going to get out of this one.
Exactly. Okay, so we have Gardy, we have Gibby, and then how about Downtown Hockey Town?
I had Chris Draper for that one. I think Chris Draper was up there
Oh, right.
for our downtown Hockey Town guests, and I know Art already mentioned him, but he was a good one. And then Carly, I'm going to give you for catching up with Carly too. It was the 2-part with Rico Phillips that I thought crushed it. It was one of the best interviews that we've had. So that one's definitely up there for me too.
I like that. It
Rico
was awesome
Phillips was
talking to
obviously.
I would put up on my Mount Rushmore. I don't know if it was so much as like it was a great interview and he's so kind. So it was really cool getting to talk to him. But like, it was really cool to tell my dad, like growing up, my dad idolized him, on the Tigers, Alan Trammell. So that was super cool to get to talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one too, for sure.
Well, I would say catching up with Carly. I think Rico Phillips is a great guest. I thought that great job. I mean, hey, on the headliner we could put Kim Davis up there, right there too. I mean, she was absolutely wonderful, doing great job with the with the NHL. Downtown Hockey Town, I would have to go with Chris Osgood simply because he was off the hook that day. I mean, he was. He was just, the too bad. If you ever want to strike fear in the heart of Chris Osgood, all you have to do is say this former player's name, and Ozzy will cower in fear. I know that's a strong thing to say, but it's true. Just say Al McGinnis. Just say Al McGinnis to Ozzy, and it's all over. But so I would say Ozzy.
All right. Speaking of Ozzy, the Red Wings put out a social media post of what we were talking about earlier, Goalies Masks. So let's take a look at that. And I would just like to point out, Art, pretty sure I see a Sawchuk mask in there, and I remember you telling us earlier that he didn't wear one.
Well, obviously, boss man and boss lady, better known as Andrew Kristoff and Stacy Burlingame. I'll tell you, when I become Hazmat Man, my character is going to wear the red hazmat suit with the winged wheel and the Pied Piper of the pandemic. When I become Hazmat Man, and I'm going to draw out like tickets and all kinds of goodies to everybody as soon as we're back to normal. A good thing. Stacy and Andrew are definitely off the Hazmat Man list. They're not getting a thing from Hazmat Man, even though I will be, just littering the community with goodness and kindness. But I will say this: if you think that was a mask that Terry Sawchuk wore as a Red Wing, give me a break. I mean, look at that thing. I mean, it barely covers. Maybe it covers his nose and a bit of his forehead, but his eyes are completely exposed. His cheeks are completely exposed. Maybe his chin, as I said, but what's it actually protecting? But I was called out. I was wrong. Most of the time I've seen highlights of Terry Sawchuk as a Red Wing. He is not wearing a mask. But, congratulations. And there's Ozzy's mask, if you want to call it that, his helmet. That is a Tretiak kind of look. Former great Russian goaltender, or Soviet Union. Back then it was the CCCP, so Soviet Union goaltender. But I'm sure that's where Chris copied that from. But hey, all right, hey, man, I was wrong. I'm man enough to admit it. But if you think that that's a mask, the mask I wear, the mask that those tigers, so-called tigers at the beginning of the show that we showed coming in, that protected them. That has more protection than the mask that Terry Sawchuk wore.
Yeah. And I will say, since you gave us 5 out of 6 and you said we lost, since you were wrong by telling us Sawchuk didn't wear a mask, I'm going to give us that extra point. No, it's like this now.
Really? We're both losers, huh? So
No,
Carly.
W, we're winners.
Yeah. you know, I mean, come on, give me a break. I mean, you know, the way I look at it, you think that you W'd. I'm sorry, you still only got 5 out of 6. The Sawchuck thing, I've admitted my mistake. You know, I'll take an L on that one too, I guess. But I will say this: I thought 5 out of 6 was good. You know, you should feel good about that. Don't let it spoil your 4th of July weekend here. You know, realize that you've come a long way. Last year at this time, who knows where you would have been? Would you have gotten 5 out of 6? Maybe. Maybe you would have gotten 6 out of 6 if you were just guessing. But you got 5 out of 6. Last year, maybe it's 4 out of 6. Maybe it's 2 out of 6. Maybe it's 1 out of 6. So you did a great job. Really great job. There's Terry. Is that Terry Sawchuck in his mask? Yeah. Against the Rangers. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm sorry, but not that I don't trust the crew, but that could be anybody. That could be anybody, right? I mean, who you know, just like the so-called Tigers at the beginning of the show. Although that does look like a Rangers breaking in on him. I will say that you know, so he wore a mask. It had to be really towards the end of his career, but in his glory days, Terry Sawchuck he didn't wear a mask. He was like, okay, come on. Yeah, you know, I can get shutouts. I'm Mr. Zero. You know, he had like 85 shutouts or something as a Red Wing. I mean, you know, he's won more games than any other Red Wing goaltender. One of the greatest of all time. Yeah, okay, maybe that is him. And
did he make that
covers
save?
a lot of his face. Did he make that save? Well, you know what? I would say, like in the old days, what would happen is that this center, if this is a center iceman, instead of, maybe this is Jean Rattel or somebody, 17. I don't know. It's definitely the Rangers. It looks like. You know, I would go backhand between the legs, but he's going to pass it over to his winger here, who's going to try to shoot a backhand as well. And Terry's going to stop it. Terry made the save on that one. And you can tell the fans look really enthused behind it. You know, so yeah, he's Terry Sawchuck, one of the greatest. One of the greatest.
Love
really,
it. Okay,
look at that. It looks like, look, was that picture from a scrimmage where he was testing on his mask? It looks like the fans, they're not even looking at the play. They're like looking down the ice. You know what? What was it? Was Gordie Howe beating up somebody? I mean, look at these people. Look at these people. Look at these people. I mean, yeah, okay. Hey, fans, there's a hockey game going on. Got the greatest goalie of all time in net. Someone's breaking in on him, 2 Rangers. And look, they're like looking down the ice. Oh, my God. Yeah, that must have been, that must have been the first.
The social question. What mask would you be wearing out of those? What was it, 6? If you see that graphic again, whose mask would you be wearing?
What mask would I wear? You know what? I would have to go out of those masks. I would definitely go with the Ozzy mask or the Hasek mask, simply because I would want to see as much of the ice as possible. Now, I know they all have cages on the front of them, and that's a really kind of a combination of the two. But I would rather have a helmet on and a cage like Chris wore, or or a modified one like the Dom, because especially now with my hair being so unruly, if I kept my hair back long, and I would have been playing, you know, if I was playing for the Red Wings, it would have been late 70s, early 80s. Could have been teammates with Steve Yzerman. But I sweat a lot, you know, and so I think a mask and that covering just would have been just too much. So I would have definitely wore a helmet with a cage.
I would go with Bernier's or Howie's, because I want as much coverage as I can get. I mean, I don't want pucks flying at me without having anything to protect my neck, anything to protect. Yeah, no, I'm going with the modern ones. Daniela, how about you?
I finally just went and pulled up my phone and pulled up the Red Wings Twitter, because I needed to get a better look at all of these, and make sure I knew who was who, because I couldn't read it. So I got it pulled up, and I think I've always liked Mike Vernon's mask, and I was going to say that, but I had to make sure it was one of the ones that they tweeted. That was like the first one I recognized when we played earlier. I've just always liked the style of his protection. I think it's fine. It should be pretty good, but I really liked his design, so I'm going to go with that one.
Well,
Love it.
you know,
All
I
right,
want
well,
to
that's
say
all I
this
have for
real
you.
quickly.
Okay,
Well,
go
I
ahead.
just want to say
Geez.
this very quickly is that, you know,
Yeah,
once
sure.
again, you know, I say Terry Sawchuk didn't wear a mask that I can recall as a Red Wing. I knew he wore a mask during his career, and then Andrew and Stacy, you know, show me up, tweeted out like minutes later. Once again, I'm doing their
They
job. You know, so
Yeah.
you know, you're welcome, Andrew. You're welcome, Stacy. I really appreciate it. But guess what? I made a mistake. That's cool. I'm not angry. I'm not bitter about it. But remember, when I'm hazmat man, you know, no gifts for you. None.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I'll give him some. I know I will.
I know. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Everyone have a great holiday weekend and continue to send in your questions and we will answer them on Tuesday's show. But until then, see you guys.
Thank you, Carly. That was
Bye,
great.
Car-
And Art, you don't have to give them any gifts. You just give them great social media content. All right. And a big thank you
Yes.
to our
Yeah,
friends at AAA for
I guess so.
Let's Socialize. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. Art, it's 2:00. We're heading into a long 4th of July weekend here. Do you have any big plans?
Yeah, I like to take bottle rockets and blow them off in my hand. You know, no, nothing.
Oh, my
I mean, I
God. Please don't listen to this.
no, don't try that at home, kids. Just a joke, a poor joke on my part. I take it back.
He's
No,
fired up right now.
you know,
He's fired up.
you know, I have a buddy who loves 4th of July as his favorite holiday because he likes to barbecue. You know, nothing about patriotism or, you know, the country, you know, 1776, July 4th. No, you know, usually every day is a holiday for me. I just embrace life. So whether it's every day is the 4th of July for me, every day is Christmas Day, every day is Halloween, every day is my birthday. That's the way I look at it.
Well, that is great, Art, but I'm definitely going to enjoy a day off work tomorrow
Oh, I
and
know.
enjoying the 4th of July weekend.
Oh, I know you will.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Word on Woodward. You also enjoy your holiday weekend, and we will see you right back here on Tuesday at noon.